It's our promise: when we see it, you see it. So breaking news at the top of this hour. The White House just issued a statement in response to the federal judge who ordered cabinet members involved in the Houthi PC small group, as it was called on that Signal platform, that order to retain messages that were sent on that chain. Don't delete any of them. So that statement reads, quote, "The Trump administration has and will continue to comply with all applicable record-keeping laws." CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman streaming with us following that. So what can you tell us about this? Some messages automatically delete after a certain period of time. This judge obviously wants them preserved.
Hey there, Reed. Good to be with you on this Friday afternoon. Well, the White House is saying they will comply with that judge's order, and that judge is James Boasberg. He is the judge overseeing this case. A group seeking transparency about the situation is suing to do just that, to try to get some answers here and try to shed some light on this situation. Now, as that legal process plays out, the judge is ordering the Trump administration to preserve those records. Now, we do know that that Signal message included a journalist from The Atlantic on those messages, and that's why we saw them come to light, because The Atlantic reported about that situation. And this, of course, happens as the White House is seeking to not only handle the fallout from this situation, but to potentially fire someone for it. We know that behind the scenes there were conversations, according to sources, about whether or not Mike Waltz, the national security advisor in this case, who added that journalist inadvertently, the White House says, to that message chain, whether or not he should step down. Now, we know that he did not offer to resign. Neither did the president ask him to step down, but those conversations did take place. The president, other officials are publicly supporting national security officials, including the national security advisor, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who sent a play-by-play of sorts, sensitive information. The White House says it isn't classified information, but certainly sensitive information about the attack on the Houthis in Yemen on March 15th. And we know that the president has publicly supported those officials, but privately he has expressed irritation and is watching news coverage of the fallout closely, Reed.
Well, and I'm also struck by that statement, "we will comply," and that it was just kept to that, because we know in recent days President Trump has gone head-to-head with this very same judge relative to the fast-track deportations of those suspected gang members to Venezuela. Was that striking to you?
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear this judge's name pop up again. Now, essentially, there's nothing necessarily nefarious here or anything like that, because this judge was randomly assigned this case. James Boasberg is assigned to oversee the case revolving around the president's use for him invoking the Alien Enemies Act. That is a centuries-old law, a wartime law that is used to deport people under wartime conditions. The president executed that law in deporting these Venezuelan alleged gang members from Venezuela to El Salvador. And so that is tied up in court for now. But this is just a really interesting situation to play out here. This judge being assigned not only this case revolving around the Signal chat, but also this case with the president's use of that wartime law, Reed.
Well, there's also a lot of interest today over executive orders relative to the Smithsonian Institute. Walk us through that and what prompted that executive order.
Yeah, this is something that the president signed just last night. We got the text of the executive order essentially empowering the vice president, because he serves on the board of regents for the Smithsonian Institution. Now, this would empower him to look at things and root out what the White House is calling essentially a culture of fight, I should say, in terms of what the White House is calling, is directing the vice president to ensure that future funding for the Smithsonian is not used on exhibits or programs, specifically when it relates to things such as trans women, or things that they believe or perhaps putting Americans against each other. That is the focus here. I think we have, for our viewers, we can bring up some of the text of this executive order. Part of that text reads, "The National Museum of African American History and Culture has proclaimed that hard work individualism, and nuclear family are aspects of white culture. I'm quoting the executive order there. And then it goes on to say the forthcoming Smithsonian American Women's History Museum plans on celebrating the exploits of male athletes participating in women's sports. Now, this is part of that cultural shift and change the White House has made an effort to do in terms of looking at those iconic cultural institutions, the Smithsonian Institute and its museums, in this case, the National Zoo to be included. Also, the Kennedy Center, the White House has efforted to make some changes there. Part of that cultural shift, if you will describe it that way, in terms of how the White House is looking to reassess different types and different facets of American life, Reed.
Willie James Inman, CBS News White House reporter on Friday. Thank you for all of those updates. Have a good day, my friend.